The fact that Hamas used their own children as human shields should not give Hamas a ticket to more power and to more territory and to more money. My name is Mosab Hassan Yousef, and this is my story. I was born in the West Bank of the Jordanian River. I was brought up in an Islamic religious family. My father was a Muslim Brotherhood leader. Later, he became a Hamas leader. And the honest truth, he was very good dad. He loved me within the best of his ability. My parents told us that we were going to heaven. And the non-Muslims, the Jews, the Christians, the rest of the world, if they don't convert to Islam, they are doomed to hell. When I was a child, I witnessed lots of killing and violence. There was no government, lots of chaos and disorder. People were literally killing each other in the streets. I'm talking about internal Palestinian conflict, where a father would actually kill his daughter or a brother would kill his sister for honor. I was beaten up in the school on the hands of the principal. I was beaten up in the street. I was beaten up on the hands of the imam at the mosque. It was not easy for a child. Wherever you go, you just have to survive. I was always running for my life. There was a Muslim Brotherhood and the summer camps, which I would participate in those camps, go with my father. And the Muslim Brotherhood was actually preparing a generation of warriors. I did not understand that that was preparation for the birth of a militia. At the beginning of Hamas was a very secretive movement, so my father did not talk about that or his involvement with Hamas, even though he was one of the founders of Hamas. Hamas invested lots of work in indoctrination. When you recruit people by the name of the nation and by the name of God, you can grow like wildfire. I became involved because I was following the lead of my father. My father is a revolutionary leader, a religious leader, and I want to be that. I don't want to be the follower, I wanted to be the leader. We thought killing for the cause was totally justified. We were taught that there were no Israeli civilians at all, that everybody was a soldier. They could twist any scripture to serve their political agendas. The PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, they invested lots of money and lots of energy in turning the Palestinians or the Arabs in the West Bank and in Gaza Strip to disobey Israel, to erupt violence, to launch the Intifada, ethnic cleansing committed by Hamas. They thought fighting Israel from within is a lot more effective than fighting Israel from abroad. Suicide bombing attack waves, stabbing attacks and mass shooting start happening. And this is when Israel had to do extreme measures and prevented many Arabs from the West Bank to cross into Israel because they didn't know who was a suicide bomber and who wasn't. So we heard about all the stories of the freedom fighters, having the guns and just shooting the occupiers, colonizers. So we wanted to follow that lead. We wanted to be the tough guys. And this is how I got in trouble. I purchased guns even before I became 18 with actually intention to form a military cell. Israel was on our tail. The moment we got the guns, all of us were arrested in no time. My arrest was not easy. Unfortunately, I got beaten up by the Israeli soldiers, which basically against the Israeli law. But in war, there are violations, and I was a victim of that situation. And Israel was so desperate to know the masterminds of suicide bombing attacks. They had to put physical pressure on Hamas military wing. One of the Israeli intelligence recruiters, he offered me that we work together to stop suicide bombing attacks for the sake of humanity. And I was thinking to myself, this is my opportunity. I will just say yes, and the moment they trust me, I'm going to destroy them. My first intention was to be a double agent against Israel, not to work for Israel. And I thought I would just destroy them from within. When I was transferred to the main prison where other Hamas members were, I told Hamas my story. I told them I need support. I agreed to work with the Israeli intelligence, and I wanted to just kill all of them, everybody who laid hand on me. This is my intention. Now Hamas said it was not convincing. So instead of helping me, actually, they started interrogating me as a suspect. So I told them, you must be out of your mind. I wouldn't betray my father. But they did not believe. And for about 16 months in Israeli prison, I struggled with this thing. They did not torture me. But it was during a time where they were torturing people for suspicion of collaborating with Israel.
Hamas was torturing people in Israeli prison?
Yes. It was like a nightmare. They were killing other people for being suspects. But in my case, they did not touch me because of my father's reputation. Hamas leaders in prison weren't just any leaders. They were the top Hamas leaders. I met those people in person. I saw them in action. I saw their brutality, and they had no mercy. They had no mercy towards Israel. They had no mercy towards Palestinians, and they had no mercy without evidence. I came to the realization, the hard way, that if Hamas succeeded in destroying Israel and building an Islamic state, their state, it would be an absolute waste of life for something that is going to be only ugly. They tortured people, they made people create stories that weren't true. Hence, many people were killed and they were innocent people. It made me ask big questions about Hamas, their true nature, and their possible future. When I was released from prison, I thought to myself, on one hand, I cannot work for Israel because there is nothing in common between me and them. And I cannot work for Hamas anymore. But I was surprised when Hamas security wing came knocking on my door to follow up on the case inside prison. There is no escape from these people. And I didn't know how to protect myself. The cause is the most important in that culture. Hamas choose their ideology over the well-being and the future of an entire generation. So my father is no different. And in fact, my father was the first to betray me. When he had to choose between the cause and his own flesh, his own son, he chose the cause. Israel came to follow up for my promise to stop suicide bombing attacks. And I was afraid that they were actually going to punish me for having the original intention of being a double agent. And the answer was, son, you don't have to worry about this. Many people start like this with us. You know, they hate us. It's part of your culture. You don't know who we are. But now you need to understand that your life is in danger. They said, we can help you with this. This is the least we can do. Their entire work was to protect me from Hamas. So for me, as a youngster, I came from a society of savages into the most advanced intelligence service in the world. So for about 4 to 6 years of a very serious work, we were able to deconstruct the Hamas operation in the entire West Bank. The payment, for me, it was the protection, because I did not trust Hamas anymore. I did not even trust my father anymore. And I was able to trust the Israeli intelligence because they did practical steps immediately of giving me cover, giving me the knowledge that I needed. The operation was very dangerous, and Hamas was already in suspicion of me. So I decided to just leave the territory. I could not go to any Arab country, and the best, most secure place was the United States. So this is why I migrated to the US. I thought something could happen to me, and I did not want my experience in the Middle East to go in void. So I felt the need to document it. And this is why we start writing the book. But I did not want my father to hear from the media or from the TV. So I called him. It was a short window while he was in Israeli prison. And I told him the truth. It was the hardest conversation I ever had, I have to say. So when I told him the story, he went silent. I broke the silence. I told him, listen, Dad, if you want to disown me, you can go ahead. I know this is very hard on you, and I know that you have to protect my brothers. Because in that culture, if I wasn't there and my father did not disown me, other tribes have the right to kill any of my siblings on my behalf. This is how brutal that culture. There is no mercy in this case. So he told me, this is not a choice. This is not an option. He said, you will always be my son and I will always love you. And this was his final words. 2 days later, I heard from the media that he disowned me, and this was the last conversation I had with him. It was very hard at the beginning. The guilt that came with it to get my entire family stained by shame while they still live there. This was the only part that was out of my control, because I was here in the United States and I was protected by a new country, by a new system that validated actually what I did from a moral point of view. But for the rest of my family, they were still there and they had to deal with this for the rest of their lives. I understood the consequences of such a decision. It was my moral responsibility to write the book, and my entire life was sacrificed. Everything. All I was trying to do to save human lives, all I was trying to do is to see a higher truth than the conditioning of my society. Revenge is a fundamental part of that culture. It's all about honor and shame. It's not about right and wrong. Violence against non-Muslims is rooted in Islam, whether we like it or not. We don't want Hamas ideology and the Muslim Brotherhood ideology to spread. We have to counter it. That's part of our moral responsibility towards the world, especially our allies. Israel is a great ally. America as a superpower has a responsibility towards global security. We depend on the rest of the world. We depend on the Middle East, not only for energy, but we depend on the security and the stability of the region. Because if that goes out of control, our commerce, our way of life, everything that we do will be jeopardized. The fact that Hamas used their own children as human shields should not give Hamas a ticket to more power and to more territory and to more money. Hamas' goal is beyond the river and the sea, is beyond any political border, is beyond Israel. Hamas's aspiration is global. And if Israel fails to destroy Hamas in Gaza, it will be the birth of an empire of savages. And we cannot allow this to happen. Because if Hamas succeed in bringing Israel to its knees, many other Islamists can do the same. And there would be so many of them. The Muslim Brotherhood is here in the United States. We see Islamists and communists marching together in the same street, having a common goal. And their goal is the destruction and the fall of the American civilization. How could any American not consider this as an immediate threat? Is this the time when the allies abandon their friends? Just because we have some angry pro-Palestine thinking that this is a cool thing, exploiting the American freedoms, their anti-civilization, their anti-America, their anti-freedom. If Hamas laid down their weapons today, there will be peace. But if Israel laid down their weapons, there would be destruction of the Western civilization. This is why I speak as loud as I can.